Black Friday, I always feel very affectionately about it because basically we're rolling back to the very first one, which we only did about 5 years ago. It was like such a surprise. We kind of did it by mistake because a lot of American customers were complaining. And ever since then, it's always been all hands on deck, you know, working overtime, working weekends, that kind of stuff. Last couple of years, we really want to kind of, in thanks to our customers for their support, wanted to throw our doors open a bit. And this is kind of the biggest event we've ever done here. I haven't organised it, so I don't really know what's in store, but I am aware that tickets sold out very quickly, and obviously there are some geographical challenges for many of the Spitfire customers. So I wanted to share with you, as best I can, considering that I am kind of being involved in this, my view of the Spitfire Audio Day. So who's masterclassing today?
Ollie and I joining up.
Joining forces?
Yeah.
And what are you, is there a theme or?
Yes, we're taking a scene from The Haunted, a film that Ollie and I scored together. We have 45 minutes to score some music to that scene with about 10 people in the room, and also we've set up some instruments there so we can record some of the instruments.
Set up a little template.
Yeah.
We reimagined the score.
Yeah.
So we made up a new film basically.
Okay.
So you add a bit of interest.
Yeah, I'm going to check if there's some in the studios first. And if not, I'll be able to go on.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
Have you done masterclasses here before?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do people respond to it being the place where we did the walkthroughs and contextuals and kind of, oh, it's weird to be here?
Ah, okay. This is where it's all happening.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
People, when they visit me in the shed, want to be photographed in my position.
Take a little
Yeah.
selfie.
Right.
One,
And is there...
one patch you recommend of all of our libraries, not to be missed in a template. Like, you know, if
Chamber Flatanders.
Chamber Flatanders.
Yeah.
And then we've got tours and masterclasses beginning. So there's a meeting point for that, which is just in reception where you came from. If you could all be back as promptly as possible for that, that's going to be Peter Broderick from Erased Tapes, who's going to be playing the piano and doing some vocals for us today, so something really, really special there. You've also been given a number, so that's going to double up as your tombola ticket. We're going to be doing the tombola directly after the surgery. As you may have noted on your schedules, you've got the surgery with Christian Henson and a few guests that are going to be on a panel here for you, and that's at 2 o'clock. And then, as I said, the tombola is going to be directly after that. Following on from that, we've got back into tours and masterclasses for those of you that have booked those. We're going to be hanging around just here at that point. We've also got staff stationed around the building, so you'll see people with lanyards. So if you've got any questions about where you're meant to be or what you could be doing, if you're at loose end, got any questions at all, come and find one of us and we'll be able to help you out.
You're all here to do a tour.
Correct.
Then you're in the right place. I'm Tom. I've been working at Spitfire for 5 years almost. I'm a designer, so I don't have perhaps the most extensive knowledge of the music side of things and the more technical questions you may have, but luckily Kristen's here, you might
Licking along.
might be able to help you out. But particularly if you have anything to do with the design of the building or some of the thinking behind the way we work, I'm your man. So general questions, I've got that. So it's going to start across the road at Unit 8A, which is actually where Spitfire entirely used to be. And we actually moved to this building just over a year ago. So any questions at any point, of course, just raise a hand, shout out, hit me back, whatever. So this actually, as we're here, is Tile Yard. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Tile Yard as a kind of an area, but it's a pretty interesting place, particularly for the music industry, but creative industries as a whole. Obviously, reasonably near to King's Cross, which is having its own kind of boom right now with St. Martin's moving there fairly recently and Cold Drops Yard opening. So there's, I can't remember the exact number, Chris may know, but there's a staggering amount of music studios in this.
80
music studios. Goodness. In this just kind of area right here, this campus. So,
and Apple Beats is based here?
Yeah, Beats One, the radio station, is just a couple doors there. So this is Unit 8A. So as I said, this used to be, well, originally, Paul and Christian had their studios on the top floor, then took the floor below, which is when I joined, and then we eventually had the ground floor as well, and then after outgrowing that entirely, we moved across the way to the building that we'll be doing a tour of after this one. But we still currently have the top floor where the studios are in this unit, but not the first or ground floor.
Sweet, you're creative, wasn't it, Christian?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
A very young-looking Christian.
Well, yeah, it wasn't actually that long ago. It's just what Spitfire's done to me.
Every opportunity.
I'll give you a royalty, don't worry.
As I said, this is, in a way, well, this was actually Christian's studio. So this and across just the hallway there, which is we call Studio A, which is where the masterclasses will be. If any of you are booked for those, that's where that will be taking place. Two identical studios, Paul and Christian working away, and that, I suppose, was the kind of the backdrop to the beginning of Spitfire, really, and kind of having that light bulb moment of doing things a little bit differently. Just behind us there, actually, is what we call Studio C, which is now currently our essay recording writing room. So we have a kind of roster and a rota of different artists coming in there to write music or work on music, and they kind of, for a month or however long that kind of residency lasts, are kind of a part of our family here, and will kind of come across the road and might have lunch with us or share things, or might do a performance, might do a labs event, etc. And obviously kind of let things flourish from there. So this now currently is our live room, whereas Studio A is the control room. So we're actually very much using, the reason we kept this floor of this building is because it's, you know, a very valuable asset and very integral to our kind of process here of recording musicians and instruments that will end up in the sample libraries or possibly.
Yeah, LCO Strings was our first major thing here, and it was a terrible room to work in. The acoustics were awful, but it just, you know, they say there's a science behind acoustic design, but it is a roll of the dice. Mm-hmm. And Paul's room sounds so much better than mine, but it's a really good room to record in.
Mm-hmm. And so also there's a lot of our online content, so kind of tutorials or ones to watch types of YouTube content there. We can film here, obviously, and across the way. There's a lot of walkthrough and tutorial stuff that happens over there, and you'll probably recognise the backdrop and things like that. So it's always a pleasure to come back here, although I don't do it as often. But this is the kind of the home of Spitfire in a way. So yeah, has anyone got any questions at this point?
No, but I really like the plug socket at the top.
That was for my projector. That was for my projector, yeah. I think it's quite interesting that the room you're standing in is not connected to the outside wall at all. It's ooh, that's nice.
That's my back.
Yeah, sorry.
Is this the one you made a video of? When you were
yeah. So it's entirely floated. So what you're standing on is basically a big block of sand, which is standing on all of these little rubber feet. So actually, if you go up and down, you can feel it kind of bounce a little bit. So it's totally sprung. The only time I've ever had any sound come into this room was this massively low rumble. And I went outside, and there was this huge articulated lorry out, just parked straight outside. It was all, I went to the driver. I said, "Can I help you at all? Because it's like you're idling outside." And he was, "Yeah, got a delivery for this unit." And I was like, "Really?" And I opened the back door, and it was basically Paul was moving from LA, and it was his recording studio. At which point I went, "Oh, Paul is even shitter with money than I am." At which point, that was the point we got a third investor on. Another just little quirk here is, this is our mic cupboard. I don't know if we got the, we do, don't we? I don't know if someone wants to grab that. So that's an interesting thing that we bought from Funky Junk, which you may recognise.
Oh, the BBC one.
Which is the BBC mic.
The massive sort of Breslow.
Yeah, you'd want to not be in bare feet when you drop that on your foot.
Yeah. It looks like a Sylvia Massey special, doesn't it?
It's like Spinal Tap, don't even look at it.
Please don't. Everyone look up.
Christian, isn't the building of all of these studios, that's on the YouTube, the Spitfire YouTube channel?
Yes, it is, yeah. It was my early days of practicing vlogging.
Down if you want to look
Yeah,
for it.
very deep down. And just one other little quirk is BT, Brian Transow, the EDM artist who we did... BT Phobos, thank you, Josh. He just rang us up and went, "Guys, got this amazing opportunity. Could you be in this place to buy all of this really old Edison vinyl?" And to this day, we don't know what BT wants us to do with it, but we have it here, and it's fairly interesting. You can it came with a record player that's in the foyer.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt, Tom.
No, I was going to say, definitely was going to point out when we're back, the gramophone we actually have in the reception now. We haven't quite used it as much as I'd like to. I wanted to start a tradition where every person's birthday, they would pick a record and everyone would just stand around and solemnly listen to it. But it hasn't. That's a burning question.
How about this organ?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's
an interesting one.
I think, was it completely free? I think that was given, it was just going on like free cycle basically, and Harry, who is like Christian, loves a bit of tech. Just was like, we should probably get this. And yeah, it does kind of work, but a lot of the pots just fall out. So yeah, feel free to give it a pump and a play.
What's the colour scheme of the room designed around the pedals?
No, it does match very well. Yeah, harmoniums are a curiosity for me because I've noticed in recording studios, the further north you go, the more harmoniums you get in recording studios. You go to Iceland, you can't move in recording studios for harmoniums, and it's because of they were used in churches and in people's homes. And interesting, in America, it's the further south you go, the more you will find in recording studios, and it's because of in the deep south when it's really hot, they would move the they can move the harmoniums outside and hold the services outside. So harmoniums are very popular in the south of America as well, the USA. There you go.
I'll remember that. I'll sound incredibly smart.
Are we going in?
We could put it in, but it might be a little bit.
I think it might be a bit disruptive. We'll save it for the actual masterclass.
Okay. So quite an interesting thing actually is this Unit 10 was until very recently Mark Ronson's studio. He's kind of decamped permanently to the United States. I used to get here very early in the mornings, and I came here at 2 o'clock one morning, and I just couldn't get into the studio just because there was a crowd of people outside, and it's because Lady Gaga was doing something in there. So that was
never heard
so I'm kind of considering when I moved into this site, it was a really doer, about 20% occupancy. It was built by Alan Sugar, so what they've turned it into is pretty incredible, really. Yeah.
I saw Nile Rodgers about a year ago. That was pretty cool.
Do you find it's a kind of sense of community?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I call it, it's like a music mine. It's like definitely shift. So there's us media composers tend to be hitting the wine at about 5 o'clock. We see the top liners arrive at lunchtime, so they're in the cafe at lunchtime. We're hitting the wine for our wine with an H at 5, whilst all the track makers are arriving. So it's kind of it's almost a 24-hour operation with just that different cultures between the different.
But you get a chance to interact. Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are events and stuff, and we're the biggest tenant now, so we have a kind of responsibility to help this community. Again, just this really curious trivial fact. When I came to look at this place, I was thrown out abruptly by my landlord in Soho. There's a butcher's on the corner called Henson's, and that is actually my great-grandfather's. which is kind of odd.
You didn't know that at that
Well, I didn't know it was here. I knew that I was from healthy butcher stock, yeah, we are. If you look up, if you go saltbeef.com, you go to Henson's, and we are the #1 producers of salt beef in this country.
Is there a meat locker?
Sorry? There is a massive meat locker in there. It's absolutely incredible. But it was very much portentous when my great grandfather's place is here. I think we'll probably end up.
You never
here.
did sample that tail in there, did you?
No. Well. Watch this space. After you, Tom.
Okay.
a Christian long-term project.
Yeah, exactly.
How many people have actually been to this building before? Anyone? One, two, couple? Not many. Okay. We have. I was going to say we actually have quite a few events ourselves now.
I remember it.
On average, one a month, maybe every 6 weeks or so. It's definitely worth just signing up to the mailing list and kind of see those come through. It's a whole kind of range of different things. So as Christian said, we're actually now with the largest tenant of Talyard. Essentially, you're looking at two kind of mirror images of the building we were just in. But when we got here, before us, it was actually a fabric, kind of haberdashery, fashion, dressmaker. So when we viewed the place, the whole thing was filled with sewing machines. It was incredibly loud. And we completely gutted it, basically, and with the kind of vision in mind of having events and workshops like performances and just a kind of more flexible way of working, we kind of built it from the ground up. Well, kind of unbuilt it from the ground up, I suppose. This is the quietest room in the building. So if you were to imagine the room we've just been in across the way, we've recorded LCO or that musician, it's all been kind of processed. This is where it comes to in the first kind of part of the process, where all the desks around us here are occupied by people who are actually going to kind of examine those samples. They're going to cut them up. They're going to warp them. They're going to edit them. They're going to kind of find what's working, what's really interesting, different ways of programming those. And this is actually where the product is kind of made in its most raw state. So as quickly as that kind of a build can be made, that's then passed over to Christian, it's passed over to our composers, Hermione Oliver and other people in the company to start kind of actually getting their hands on it and just kind of see where that product's going. Because sometimes it's quite straightforward. You record something for, it's a harp, sounds like a harp, great, but there are other projects which, might be slightly more kind of inventive or innovative and kind of let the samples dictate what that product actually becomes. So this is a really, really important room. Just behind there, we've got a kind of QA, kind of that development studio where, just at that first stage, I can start building stuff and doing those kind of workshops. We've got kind of, tea and coffee bar and stuff like that, another meeting room. So the idea is that the whole building is kind of used by everyone to an extent, and as much as possible, people are kind of having to move up and down. And obviously, the ground floor is the kind of hub of the kind of the whole company. Throughout the history of Spitfire, we've had various different approaches, because obviously editing, noise reducing samples, for anyone who's done it, is kind of, it's very exhausting. So it's like plucking chickens in a nuclear power plant. So it's kind of quite repetitive, but you've really got to be very clever and have got to be sensible about it. So we've tried different ways of doing it. Initially, we used to do it with part-time developers who would come in, and we only let them to do a maximum 3 days a week, because mistakes are where the real time soak further down the line. But what we felt actually the best thing to do is, instead of doing the kind of the Henry T. Ford thing of you chop, you NR, you implement, of actually we have kind of mini teams and people who will take it literally from the beginning stages and attend the sessions all the way to delivery and QA, and that just mixes it up, keeps it more interesting. So we employ the sprint methodology, certainly on this floor, not so much with the other floors.
How long does it take to sort of, go from recording and then sort of doing what you do here until you release it?
It does depend, usually, on whether there's legatos involved, because they are the most expensive aspect of what we do. Recording legato samples costs 5 times the amount of recording just normal longs. We usually say a day in the hall will give us a month's work, so that'll give you an idea. But it is a little bit piece of stringy depending on. Some of the lab stuff we can make in a day, some of it, and sometimes you kind of go, oh, this is going to be easy, and it just turns out to be really, really difficult. And you know, as I always say with sampling, it's something, and that's I think what's really fun about it is you never really know how it's going to turn out. So there can be some pleasant surprises, and there can be some less pleasant surprises.
Sorry, Tom. It's thrown away as well. You start working on a project and go, this is going to be great, and you get sort of 6 weeks in, you're like, this isn't working. Yeah,
we threw away about half of a major project that we did in the hall. It was literally hundreds of thousands of pounds, but we made a fundamental error that's just meant that it just wasn't going to integrate with the rest of the library. So it's usually parts of libraries, and we adjust the scope of a library. There's a big piano project we've just done that we've had to do a major scope adjustment on and stuff. So yes, and sometimes we just have to go back in and re-record it because we didn't quite do it right. Just want to say that those actually aren't our upcoming projects. I think that's a plant.
Yeah, we had to completely sterilise the space before these tours. So yeah, that's a little joke. This is so this room here and there, particularly interesting. Homai, who maybe many of you know, this is her studio, Studio E, and this is where she'll kind of work throughout the day and kind of produce the demos that you might hear on our website, or kind of work out her own compositions, and that's something that's really exciting. For the composers here, they kind of have a role that supports them as composers in themselves. Because, you know, as that's kind of our mission, it would be kind of paradoxical if we kind of kept them captive and actually, you know, so it's a way of kind of bringing them and their work into the world. This area here is the engineering department. So after the recording and after the sample editing, this is the kind of next port of call, particularly for kind of Spitfire standalone plugins. This is the team that are really responsible for creating those products: labs, essay recordings, originals, and so on. BBC Symphony Orchestra, of course. And just behind you is our web department. So the thing that's really exciting and was a big kind of drive when we moved to this space was having this extra space meant we could kind of bring all the services in-house. So almost everything that you kind of interface with from Spitfire is made in this, well, if not this building, by kind of a Spitfire employee, as it were. So it's really exciting that as something like Composer Magazine, our new editorial platform, that was actually built all in-house as a kind of, you know, continued
thing of beauty, that's what it
is. Kind of, commitment to that kind of editorial thing. It's something that we did kind of off the cuff a little bit for the journal, and now it's something that we kind of launched as a full-fledged, almost sub-brand of itself, really, and we can kind of continue to support and grow in its own right. So finally, we're going down one floor to... Oh, so of course, this just a mirror of the studio across there. Louis, another of the in-house composers, would be in there. So again, just to have that kind of proximity between the people actually making the products. Literally next door is the composer who's kind of going, oh, I've just been playing with this for 6 hours. Here are some notes, or this part's really great, have you considered this? So this is in kind of following that product journey. This is the kind of the last place. So this is a bit more of a kind of the noisy floor, a bit more of a free-for-all. This just here is kind of marketing and design. This is my desk right there. Will, our CEO, is just there. Paul and Christian, they're over there. We've got a meeting room. Over here is customer support, and if you look right now, there's actually some of them there doing it live.
Thanks for turning this into a business.
So they're actually talking to people on our website right now about Black Weekend and helping people figure that out. We've got a photo studio over there, finance. This is kind of, a bit more of a kind of noisy floor, people kind of lots of conversation and talking, playing Mario Kart over there. All the labs artwork, so if you've seen that on the website, you can see some of it over there. All of it's actually, and I do encourage you to actually go up and look at it. It's all collaged, real, kind of handmade artwork, and that's made over in that corner there. So it's a really fun floor to work on. It's a little bit noisy at times, but working on that. And yeah, this is where we kind of have that finished product from upstairs. We know what it is, we know who it's for, what it sounds like, and you actually start kind of thinking about the campaign, so the artwork and the user. Maybe there's a different part of the interface we need to think about, and kind of behaviour there. Obviously working with something like Composer magazine, we'll be working on the designs for that. A lot of video editing, a lot of photo editing, and just the kind of organisation that goes into the kind of delivery of all those products. Just behind you, this kind of wall represents the packing area. So if someone places an order with us for a hard drive or an annual, some merchandise, this is where that's actually kind of packaged up, it's copied. So this desk is drives currently being copied.
Can I hand you this just for a sec? Can we show them the box?
The box.
Okay, so basically each of these drives comes with a screwdriver, and this will give you an idea of how many drives we've made since BBC SO. It's kind of quite a visceral understanding of people still like the old tech of being delivered a drive. Yeah. So thank you. We're going to put that in a fish tank, I think.
So yeah, it's a pretty lively place, and on a kind of working day, the difference between the two floors is quite different. But that's also why it's all the more important that we have the ground floor as a kind of real communal space, and there's a lot of ping pong that we play and a lot of beers that get drunk, so it's a kind of very social.
You're not bad at Mario Kart.
Sorry?
Yeah, Spitfire isn't too bad at Mario Kart.
We're incredibly good at Mario Kart. In the old office, we used to play, I mean, no joke, every single day for a few years. And when we moved over here with a bit more space, it kind of died down. Ping pong's really taken over. That's now, the bar is high. But we've carved out a little Mario Kart nook recently, so it's still alive and well.
My mate's down at Amplify, you could ask for him.
We did. That was an interesting. Yeah, that was fun. I think we knew we were good, but it was almost like, I don't know.
Do you have like tournaments between all of the different?
Well, we were at the time. I think we were really keen, and we were kind of looking at London as a whole. But we never quite got there. But yeah, it's been a big source of joy. Yeah, over the years.
Going back to the design aspect of it, so you keep everything in-house, and that's been something that has kind of grown from the beginning. Or that's the way it looks.
Well, I basically, because I'm a little bit better at Photoshop than Paul, but also I would say more of a kind of more into design than Paul. I used to do the packaging, and I used to write all the user manuals, which I think is my kind of Faustian punishment for never having read a user manual. And I was really struggling with workload, and also that I wasn't very good at it. And every time I sent something to Sound on Sound, there'd be a problem with the res and all of this kind of stuff. So I lived in Elephant and Castle, and there's this College of College of Communication, which you went to. So I just advertised on their virtual notice board, and Tom came. And Tom, you had a YouTube video which involved quite a lot of drinking, and I went, he's our man. But I mean, Tom was like really thrown. I mean, it came on to help me, and then it was clear that Tom was like years ahead of me. So I went, right, off you go. But within months, you had to redesign the entire website and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of. It seems kind of on an equal par with what you're doing sonically, your branding and your image, and the way that they're part of the same thing. You know, if you're
hugely. I think. That's when you really, and particularly going to the recording session. If you go to Air or any of them, that's really when you see the kind of the magnitude of actually what we're recording and capturing through the musicians and the engineers and just the room itself. And I think witnessing that then really kind of sets the tone for what you're then trying to represent, because it's just staggering. I don't actually think we've even accomplished it really, because I think people still can't quite understand how incredible the kind of raw material is sometimes. It's just like magic.
I guess if you haven't heard it, you wouldn't.
Yeah, and I think
it's a physical experience as much as
it's hard, you know.
It's what you're saying is you've taken that aesthetic, carried it through.
Exactly. And I think
we had one last year where you did some packaging which was beautiful, but it was blue. And I said, you've got to listen to the library because it just doesn't sound blue. A number of times we've had that from Directors A. I wanted to sound more blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the book that you produced a one-off, or is there a plan to do more of those?
Well, that's actually, so you definitely have a look at that. That's downstairs, available for sale today. It's something that we did specifically for our 10th anniversary year, which is why it's this kind of like bumper edition, bonkers one. But I think it's something, you know, as kind of lovers of the kind of tactile, and that was something we wanted to get across with our hard drive packaging, is when you are kind of producing and selling something that is invisible, as it were, to give it that tactility is really important to us. So I think it's something that we'll definitely kind of pick up and look to kind of capture, and particularly now we have more than ever, we're kind of creating more than ever photography and content around the sessions and interviews and those sorts of things. I think it's only right that we'll kind of mirror our online editorial with it offline. So, yeah.
That's good. I noticed the acoustics in here are quite reverberant.
Yes.
Do you not find that gets quite noisy?
So it's something we had to kind of move to this office on a relatively, you know, kind of sudden thing. Yeah. And so there were a few finishing touches that we hadn't quite implemented, one which was acoustic treatment, and that's basically incoming in the kind of coming months. It's been okay.
Yeah.
I think there's probably, marketing is generally the loudest department in the loudest room, so perhaps I'm slightly kind of oblivious to it, and that's where customer support or finance and the slightly quieter tables might at times find it a little bit more troublesome. Yeah. But it's something that we're also kind of friendly here, that it's never really an issue where you're kind of silently bubbling over, you know, people just go, let's have quiet time for a moment, turn the music down, everything's a little bit quiet. And it kind of ebbs and flows, you know, the morning might be a bit noisier and then it kind of settles down a bit. But yeah, it's...
I know it sounds like a cliche, but it is an extraordinary family, isn't it? I mean, you're here more than I am, but there are people who have become flatmates, and you can see people's lives are really kind of...
Yeah, it's a very transparent way of kind of working with each other. So as much as possible, you know, things, and reflected in the design of this building, it's kind of everyone's together really, which can be problematic at particularly busy times if you've got a real deadline, but that's also where, when you spend some time downstairs today, you'll see there's kind of little nooks, there's some booths and some quieter spaces, so people can kind of hide away as and when they need to.
Just a quick thing about the acoustics. Your album it sounds really good.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Just turning up and hearing my own music.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know who's in charge of the Spotlight.
One of those gentlemen.
Great taste.
Wow, that must have been pretty sweet. All right.
Yeah, an extra discount.
Christian, did you ever think it would become this?
God, no. No.
In Soho, sampling your Charango with your brother.
No, in fact, well remembered. No, I just no, absolutely, just no. I mean, just beyond our. We did it to get some. It was the only way we could afford to get a sample library that fitted our aesthetic, and we did it. You know, and it's just. Yeah, I mean, I would say that everyone in Spitfire really enjoys the kind of. The get-togethers we have, like at Christmas time and stuff. Paul and I find it terrifying because it's just so many people.
It's a responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also like, it's what's lovely is to see how many friendships and really true kind of lifelong friendships have been made and on all of that kind of stuff. But my tip to any entrepreneur is think about the money second, and it's more about the love of it really, and the joy, and that's you know, we've got rid of a few people over the years who have. I think it's very easy to kind of infect what is a loving environment, and that's the biggest threat that we have when we bring new people in, is that they don't have that love, you know. And it's that thing when you see someone putting their bag on at, you know, 4:59, and it's like, you know, there is a real passion for it. So I think that's our continuing thing, is to kind of follow the bliss of the company, not necessarily the business opportunity, you know.
What a wonderful way to end the talk. Thanks so much. If you've check your schedule, if you've got a masterclass that might be happening, because we've slightly overrun, so just make sure you're not going to miss the start of that. Meet in the same place. Josh is going to take you across. If not, if you haven't got that planned, then obviously there's the collaborating room, which is awesome. We've got Rick and Morty on the TV now. Get a tea and coffee, talk to each other, mingle, check out the shops. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for everyone who came down yesterday. Great to be together with the Sister and Brotherhood, albeit a small sample of composers. We'll be doing it again soon. Now, if you want to check out that panel, it's an hour well worth spending with us, I think. I put a link down to the video below. It's on the Spitfire main channel. The sound starts a bit kind of roomy and quiet. It does improve as the video goes on. But as I said, some really valuable stories and advice in there. Thanks to Sam and Nainita for joining me yesterday, and thank you for kind of coming along for the ride, albeit the little snippets that I could film. Subscribe if you haven't done already. One of those for the efforts of the Spitfire team yesterday, and ding that bell if you want to be notified the next time I put a video up. Some really good stuff coming up. See you next time.